Hi friends, it's Sarah from Berry and Pine, and today I'm going to share 3 decoupage crafts. You're going to love them. I hope anyway. Let me know down below which is your favorite. We're going to start out with a Dollar Tree snow globe. It has a little bit of twine on it. We're just going to take all that off and the tags. We're going to use a white paint for our base, a linen or off-white paint to match our papers, whatever works for yours. And then you're going to need ModPodge, foam brushes, and a ribbon of some kind. You can see I change it. The black and white was much too stark. These I got on Temu. Now hear me out. So I do not recommend Temu. I am not telling you to shop at Temu. I have not accepted the 200 plus emails I've gotten from Temu to partner with them. If you want to be your own importer of record, look that up. And if you want to purchase from Temu, please do so. Otherwise, use Adobe Firefly or Bing's AI and make these images yourself. Print them off on copy paper. It'll do the same thing. Okay? So I'm just telling you, there's nothing special about this paper. There's nothing special about these images. You can literally make them yourself. Or you can use napkins or rice paper. I think that's a little expensive though, to be honest. So this is particle board. I'm going to paint the edges of it in off-white or cream because the only thing I want white in mine are the little snowmen. But you'll choose a coordinating color. I'm just making sure that'll work, and it will. Now, most of the time, I'm a klutz. Are you a klutzy crafter? Please let me know I'm not the only one. Y'all, at least once a month, I almost cut off a digit or burn myself something. All right, so I'm just painting the outside edge of this. I'll actually do 2 coats of that. After I create the white on the front and the back, I'll go through and just clean up that center again. So this is gesso, and I love it. I use it much more as a base than I use chalk paint because number 1, you only need 1 coat, and number 2, it dries so smooth. Unlike chalk paint, which will be a little bit like textured, this just dries so smooth. So now I'm just going to go ahead and clean this up after I've dried both layers of the white. All right, so I'm going to, use a thin coat of ModPodge. But first, I'm going to trace this. So you could actually just put ModPodge on this and just do it that way and then sand off the whole thing. But I'm going to over edge. Well, I don't know how to explain that, but I'm basically just going to cut on the outside line of this circular trace. And so I'm going to always check all of my globe projects like this with a full circle and with a cutoff circle. You can do the same. I think it looks odd with the full circle, so I'm going to do the cutoff. But anyway, I'm cutting it just on the outside of my trace line so that I have overhang along the edges. Okay? Before we Mod Podge, I'm just going to paint the bottom. I go horizontal, then I go vertical, then I dry it, then I go horizontal, and then I dry it, and then I sand it. A very, very light sand of a very high grit. So you can see it's going to be just quick and dirty, 220 grit, and it makes it smooth. All right, doing the same on the other side, and we're just going to dry that as well. Okay. You can leave yours chalky if you want. I just didn't want it that way. All right, so I'm lazy. I'm just going to trace this one. Listen, I look for shortcuts, okay? I'm not lazy. I just look for shortcuts. All right, so now's the time. We just Mod Podge it to this. And I am going to add, you can see on the edge there, I'm going to add a tiny little bit of Mod Podge below that line of paint, obviously, and along the top router edge. And the reason is because I'm going to want the overhang. All right, so once that is dry, I'm going to go ahead and just use my Cricut, what is it called, mini press? It's either Cricut Easy Press or Cricut Mini Press. You can get one of these for $20. I also, you know which one I used the other day was the X-Tool one. It looks almost similar to this, but it's a little bigger and it's a little nice, like it's a nice size. Anyway, you can get these anywhere. You can use a home iron, medium to medium high, and this thing is done in 20 seconds. I mean, this is real time. I'm not speeding anything up right here. And you'll see me go along the edges kind of like that just to make sure I have it on when it's time to sand. Let me know down below. Do you love decoupage projects? I forget about them a lot. I forget about it, that I have all these fun things that I could easily like thrift something. You don't even have to do it from the Dollar Tree. You could just go thrift something. There's a billion things at the thrift store to, sand down and base coat and do this too. I would love to hear, like, what are you decoupaging for the holidays? I would love to hear that. I'm just giving you an idea for a shelf sitter, for ornaments, and for coasters, but I would love to hear what you're doing. Now, because this is paper, so just FYI, this is like a little thicker than printer paper. I'm going to use a low grit sandpaper. You'll see, I have to go answer the door. So I changed from 80 to 60, but 80 was working just fine. But you can see, like, this is a thicker paper, so you do want something a little bit more gritty. Because the bottom was looking very, very plain, I mixed brown and black paint, got a chip brush, and just made some. If you're a real artist, can you look away? Just look away real quick. I just used a little like strip of it and then buffed it out with my fingers. Again, real artists, I'm sorry. But I just wanted to add a little visual interest. Half of this is going to be covered up by a ribbon anyway, but I just wanted to add something. It looked so stark and plain and without any depth. So this is my answer to that. I am going to put a coat of ModPodge on the top, but I will add the ModPodge and then use the brush without any ModPodge on it to thin it out. And then I'll do 2 coats if I need it. I didn't need it for this one, but I always do let that dry and then come back to it just to make sure that I didn't get any like spots that are raised or bumpy or whatever. Did the other side as well. And that way it just looks nice and smooth. I did seal the entire thing in ModPodge just so all the hues and like the shine would match. And then I dried that. For my accent, I'm just going to use a chiffon ribbon. You can get this on Amazon. I just tied a knot because there's a lot of bows at the holidays, y'all. Ooh, there's a lot of bows. And sometimes a knot is just fine. And so this is, you can see it here. This is in studio lighting. At the very end, I'll show you in natural lighting. I believe in full disclosure because I don't like editing. Next project is another Dollar Tree DIY. This one is using these 6x6 inch planks, and I'm going to make some coasters. These are also from the Dollar Tree. They're like little sticky felt pads. I'm going to use the same French linen paint and ModPodge with a foam brush. Now, these are massive compared to our little 6x6. Okay, I get that, but they all coordinate. So I'm going to use these trees, and all of them have something odd at the top. This is AI, y'all, so it's a little odd. This is the French linen paint. I'm doing the bottom of the coaster, not the top. So you can see I'm doing a very thin layer. I don't want to make it so it can't see any wood. I'm just toning down that yellow of the basswood or pine or whatever it is. That is going to go, like you're going to put the felt pieces on this side. So I'm just going to do that for all of them. I just followed the grain of the wood and then it's time to dry them. I love the heat gun. I have a Wagner. I think it's the Wagner. It's pink. It doesn't need to be pink. I think the other colors are even cheaper. But now it's time to ModPodge. I'm using a thin coat of ModPodge, but making sure I get the edges again. I am going to sand this a good deal. So I get asked a lot, like, why are you making like 3 things at a time? Listen, if you're new to merchandising or marketing, if you create one item, it could potentially attract somebody, yes. But if you create multiples, you're more than likely going to increase the number of items per sale. So what I'm going to do is put all of these together in a display with like a Dollar Tree mini tree, those little mini desktop trees. And I'm going to put all these together so I can potentially increase the sale on these because they're all in the same theme. All right. So once I get this done, again, I would strongly urge you to set this aside until it cools down all the way, because if you do, any pieces that may have raised up, you're going to be able to see them once it cools down and you can make any adjustments. I am going to keep the scraps from these projects as well because I'm going to make gift tags as well. But the gift tags are the same exact process as this, so I didn't record those. All right, so you can see I'm going to use a very low grit, and I'm going to go along the edges very roughly. I'm going to go at the end on the corners as well. So you'll see me go along these top side edges because I want these corners to be really like worn, just in that shabby style. So I'm gonna have to clean up, and now we just coat it. So because these are a little bit bigger, I'm gonna put my thin coat of Mod Podge on, and then I'm going to go along with a clean foam brush and remove just a little bit of that. And again, 2 layers is not a bad thing, especially if you don't see the streaks. So you can see I'm trying to raise it up so you can see there's no streaks. That's what we want. And then I'm just going to repeat these steps for the same thing. Like all of this is the same. So I'm just going to blow through this, power of editing. Once I have all of those done, I'm just going to flip them all over and add my little feet. Now, a tip that I learned from somebody, again, I'm so sorry, I don't remember who taught me this, but anything with adhesive, you want to clamp. I know you're like, what? I'm not clamping this. I promise you it's a good idea. So clamp these while you're putting all the other ones, clamp the next one, add it to the stack. That will allow those things to really work. If you would like, you can use an additional adhesive or just cut your own felt pads. But this is what they look like under studio lighting. I actually really love these, and this is how I'm going to display them, all tied together with a chiffon ribbon. My last project is my favorite project. We're going to use small canvases from the Dollar Tree, the circular one and the hexagon. They also have a square one, and you can make a square and a diamond. And then these are the same decoupage papers in a smaller size. You do want to make sure that they'll work for you, because you'll see my sizing in a second. I want to play with foiling. I've never done it, and you'll see it's a bit of a learning curve, but it was so fun, and I cannot wait. I'm actually going to create a video with nothing but foil projects because I think it's so fun. All right, so I'm just adding a layer of Mod Podge to the canvas, making sure I coat those pretty well because it is canvas. Some of it's going to get sucked in. Now I'm going to paint the edges with the same French linen paint. Now the idea behind the paint is just we're taking down the white. That's all. I'm not going to paint the back because I am going to cover those. Once the edges were painted, I just dried that, and then it was actually time to Mod Podge. So the center of the canvas needs to be elevated. If you happen to use your Mod Podge cap, it works, but you can also stuff paper towels or whatever up in there as well. So I'm just making sure I get it into place, and then I crease it on the edges. That helps to make sure you don't move it when you're putting down your parchment. And then I'm going to heat it up, and that's it. But the foil is coming. This is honestly, I hope people are still watching this long in because the foil was so much fun. It was frustrating at first, but then it became really fun when I figured it out. All right, so definitely let that cool down, set it aside, and then make sure you don't have any bubbles or anything before you move on. So because my cap won't fit for the hexagon, here you can see I'm shoving some paper towel up there, and it's fine. No one's gonna know, it's just gonna be temporary. But I'm going to crease the edges on the same thing for the next guy and do the same. And I'm definitely getting the edges because again, this is paper. That white of the paper is going to show through, and I'm going to change that, tone it down a bit so you can see when I do that. See how much, it's a lot of white that shows through both in the canvas and in the paper. So we want to tone that down just a second. All right, so we're just going to repeat that for little Mr. Snowman. So cute. And then I'm going to add my same linen paint along the edges. I am putting it onto the actual image, and then, you know, artists look away. I'm using my finger to brush that off through. I believe that color coordinating these things makes the eye not see that they're different colors. I promise it doesn't make sense, but look a little bit into color theory. This will make it so that even bright white looks a little less harsh. So here is where, this is my very first time ever. You can see I'm just putting Mod Podge onto these teeny tiny berries. They're very small. And my finger got stuck, so I'm going to use this little piece that broke off. I'm going to pick it up I'm going to pop it on. So I did learn a couple things. Don't poke at it. You don't need to poke at it, especially if it's little round blobs of Mod Podge. When it was dry, I just brushed it off. So I'm going to put a lot of Mod Podge over here, and I'm just going to go along the edge. And you can do a full gilding if you want, like all the way around the edge, which would look absolutely cool. But because this is my first time ever using this stuff, I am not doing that. I'm just going to do little accents. So here you can see that didn't go well. It looks like there's a fan going, but I promise you there's no fan. This stuff just moves around on its own as if it were under ghostly power. Like I don't know how to explain it. This stuff is the lightest, so you can see I'm a little frustrated. It's so light and it's so easily torn. So all I'm doing is plopping it into, barely touching it into the Mod Podge, and then I'm going to set it aside after I get like the pieces in. You can see it, like I've ripped it by this point. It's cut off at other places. The strips, however, I'm convinced that this works for the edges a little bit better than trying to, get a full piece on there. I did learn that if you take a little time on the Mod Podge, the foiling goes a lot better. So I would say if you're going to make a straight line, I wanted mine kind of like a little shabby, but if you want to make a straight line, it's okay. You're going to need to take a little time to put that straight line down. And you can see like that one worked so well. And you can see it like even through the Mod Podge. I had a little blump there, so I'm going to press mine in. But that is the way. I'm convinced that is the way. And I did look up because I was like, am I not supposed to use Mod Podge? You can use any water-based glue, so don't worry. By the way, I tried PVA glue, which is just like Elmer's school glue. It also worked. The clear I didn't like, but the regular did. I let it all dry for a minimum of 5 minutes and then literally grew so frustrated with that tiny soft brush that I picked up the chip brush, and it's way better. Use a stronger brush to remove it. After it's dried, like it's just easy. Like see how quickly that did? But it does get everywhere, not gonna lie. But you can see, watch how easy, this is all dry. Watch how easy this is. Looks so much better than my Santa because now I knew what I was doing. But hey, I'm a crafter. I wanted to try this stuff. I've surprisingly used it on furniture, but it's not the same. And maybe it's because I got it from Temu. Don't know. But this was a little harder to work with. But I think in the end, I think it came out pretty well. So I just added a same berry accent so I could have the coordinating ornaments. And look, this is the crafter math, serious crafter math, kittens. But I was really happy with the final project. So what I'm going to do is select my ribbon. I didn't have the right size ribbon, but I was thinking a deep green velvet ribbon would look so good with this. I didn't have it. So I did have this chiffon ribbon. I cut it in half, tied some knots on the end, and then staple gunned it to the back. Now look at all the staples in this thing. So I decided I'm going to be covering the back of them. You do not have to do that, but I just felt that's what I wanted to do. And here's a little tip when you're making ornaments and attaching the ribbon. Go ahead and staple gun the top as well, because that way it'll hang straight instead of flopping forward. And you can see, so pretty. So I went ahead and did that with the other one. And then I'm going to trace these before I add Mod Podge to them. But basically, I'm going to cover the backs of mine. You don't have to do this. Don't worry about it. You can use paper, but if you are going to use felt, cut it inside of the line that you traced and then it'll fit. So I just made those two up, and I'm going to Mod Podge the actual images to lock in the gilding and just cover and protect the front of it. So you can see these things. These came out so beautiful. Again, you can you can foil the entire thing on the outside, which would also be very, very pretty. But I was very happy with how these came out. This is probably my favorite project of this little series because they just look gorgeous in person. All right, so the best part about the felt is that you can pull it if you've cut it a little wonky. See, mine's short, so you pull it and you even it out, and then it's perfect. And that is it for this project. Now, stay tuned because now you're going to see everything in natural light. I just love that Santa. He's probably my favorite. So here you can see all of my projects in natural light. I always share everything, and I want to make sure you're getting the same result as I am. I really appreciate you being with me here today. I would love to hear which of these projects is your favorite. Be sure to leave a comment down below. And as always, I very much appreciate you being here and spending the time with me here today. If you have any questions or want to know where I got anything, please let me know down below. Please subscribe to the channel. This is a brand new channel. I'm trying to grow it, and I'd really appreciate your support.